you. Tom, give me his glasses because I'm a dork.
Okay, we are live on
We're live, living and breathing.
all hemispheres of this planet.
You hear what Tom said? All hemispheres. Hemispheres and hemispheres. Because we like it all. Hey, I'm the manful handful. I used to be somebody. I used to shop up here. We're in Swissville. I used to shop up at the store up there. They had a little Pakistani guy in there come over, work in the store, and he used to introduce me to people. And he'd say, "Is Norman Nardini?" He used to be somebody. He would tell people that, and I would go, you know, that's not polite to say things like that. He didn't understand. I was like, you know, you're like kind of dissing me and complimenting me at the same time. Something I've learned to get used to. I have. Hey, I forgot my glasses. I said glasses. So Tom gave me these. What do you think? What do you think, Tom? Little Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah.
You know, Benjamin Franklin was getting a lot of, not just in Philadelphia either. Pilly, not just in Pilly. I think he was over in London, getting a high level. I think he was over in Petty, getting a high level. Benjamin Franklin was dropping the anchor and dragging it on the bottom of the pond. Hey, on the way over here, I was listening to, like all men should do, I was listening to sports talk radio. And here's me doing what men do, getting drunk and sloppy. Hey, don't drink and draft. That's what I found out in fantasy football. On the way over here, I was listening to sports talk, and they were talking about Key Brian Hayes. I don't know if you guys are familiar with who he is. He's a beautiful kid, and this is his first year in the majors. They just got him up a couple weeks ago. And his dad was Charlie Hayes, who played for the Bucks back in the 90s, third base. So anyway, and they're talking about this kid, and I don't forget who it was. I didn't know who it was talking, but he was like kind of overseeing after the interview they did with Key Brian. And he said that this kid said that he works in the off season on his defense as much as he does on his offense. And then the guy then he was gone, and the guy that I was listening to said, you know, he said, I'm glad to hear him say that, but he said, wouldn't you think that if this is your life, and this is what you do, play ball, wouldn't you think that the off season you would work on everything that you do? If you're a good fielder, in the off season you work to become a great fielder. If you're a good hitter, you work to have more power. You work to make better contact. You work to not swing at balls that are out of the strike zone. And you do that all year long, your whole career. And when he was saying that, I was thinking of what I've always thought, how that should apply to us music people, and how it's always applied to me. Because I always thought, even back to when I was just a little snot, I always thought I was working as hard at my craft as I could. And the truth is, I never was working at my craft as hard as I could, but I thought I was. Because I wasn't capable of knowing more, because I hadn't had enough experience and enough failures to learn how to work smarter, work better, and get better. And then I asked myself, are the other musicians around town, and not just in town, other musicians that play rock music, are they and have they been, Your Honor, working as hard as they can at their effing craft? Do they wake up in the morning? Wait a minute. How about this? They don't even wake up in the morning because they didn't sleep at night, because even when they were sleeping, they were thinking about what they could do to make more better. You like that, more better? I love it. And that's what we as people, not just me, little big mouth, half clown, half dork, half monkey, whatever. But that's what I think. I think we should all, as people, whatever it is that we do, we should like a song we wrote, I guess I wrote it years ago, give it everything you got. And that's how I try to live. And like I say, I always tried to do that, but when I was young, I didn't know. And when I was young, there were other things to worry about. Like when I was young, the music business was actually a business. And there was action. And there were dollars to be made. But it wasn't always about the dollars. It was about action. You know what I'm saying? Dollars never meant that much to me. Action, that means something to me. You know what I'm saying? When there's action, that means the light's shining on you. It's your moment. Get out there and be somebody. Show them what you got. Swinging around the room. Banging on the bedroom door a couple times. Bang, bang, bang. How you like me now? Because girls, I'm coming on strong and what? Staying on long. But that thought, wouldn't you work all off season on every aspect of your game because you know the season's coming back? And that's kind of how I'm looking at where we are today. I know the season, gigging season, will be upon us. It's not going to be in the fall. Not going to be in winter. If I would ever leave you, it wouldn't be in winter. Remember that song? Would it be in spring when flowers bloom? Maybe. I'm a hope. Springtime, here's me. I'll be wearing a real light, thin, silken undershort that swings loosely as I walk through the bedroom. That's what I'll be wearing. But, I mean, when's the season coming back? I don't know. But I know that when the season comes, I will have, old man that I am, spent every waking hour doing what it is that I can to make myself more presentable, to make myself easier to listen to make have something to say. You understand what I'm talking about? I listen to a lot of music today. You can't understand a goddamn word. So what do they have to say? You don't know. Maybe they have something to say, but you can't understand it. I'm starting to slobber on myself. How you like that? That makes me think about all the days of the potter. I was thinking about that the other day. This is a great story. About 25, 30 years ago, I went to this accountant. He was a very straight guy, and he was from Swissville. Very honest and good guy. And I needed someone to help me with my business. And so he and I started working together. And then he says to me, he says, well, Christ, you know a lot of people. He says, can you send me anybody? I could use some new customers. And I said to him, well, most of the people I know are broke, or they're doing kind of businesses, that people don't talk about. And he says, what's that mean? I says, oh, you know what I mean. Just, people doing things they shouldn't be doing. And I don't think he understood what I was saying. So I said to him, hey, I know a guy that needs some help. He got some money and he got to figure out what to do with it. And I think you might be able to help him out. So I sent my buddy to this straight accountant. And my buddy was doing business and on the side. And he goes to this accountant, and this accountant in his office, he had a sink right there in the office. And while my buddy's talking to him, he's telling him, hey, I didn't get up this morning because I didn't sleep all night. And he was sniffling and, doing what guys that stay up all night do. And he said in the middle of the conversation, my buddy got up from his chair and went over to the sink and started douching out his nose. And then spitting in the sink, and he says, man, he says, you sent him over. He says, he must have been really sick. I said, sick? I says, yeah, he was sick. I said, he had the cocaine flu. He says, what's that? I says, dude, I told you, the people I know, a lot of them are goofballs, and they do different things. And he says, oh, you think that's what he was doing? I says, I know that's what he was doing. And just a funny story and every time I would see, and actually, the reason I bring the story up is that friend who is the accountant passed away this June. Fantastic guy. And every year when I would see him at tax time, we would go over that story of my old dope dealing friend that come to his office and had an episode. So what are we thinking about today? The first thing we talked about was what? Doing everything that you can do all day, every day, to what? Accomplish. Sports time mentality. That's what I have. Sports time mentality. I don't fit in with the sports guys because I'm not much of a man. Never was. Although I am a watcher. I guess I'm a sports voyeur. I like to sit in the stands and just watch. But that's what I'm about. And I think that's one of the ways I got in trouble in town with the other musicians in the music business hierarchy, because I give a crap. Did you hear what I just said? I got in trouble because what? Because I give a crap? And ain't that how shit works? Ain't that when it trickles down from the bubblegum mountain? I almost said bubble gun. And I've been thinking about bringing my bubble gun back and giving you sons of bitches, raining down on you with some bubbles, teaching you a little bit about respect. Because the guy that'll shoot you with a bubble gun, there ain't nothing he won't do. Man, am I glad to be here. Tom's here. Tom, say hello.
Hello.
Tom's from Erie, the other mistake on the lake. And I don't say that. I don't even call Cleveland a mistake on the lake because I got so many good friends there. A lot of great people. I told you about the time we were, back in the 80s, we were partying in Cleveland after a gig, and we were at this house, and it was like this amazing rich guy's house, and there was like awards and trophies and banners and flags and everything else in the house. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, whose house? Where you at? It's like 4 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's going crazy. And I says, oh, this is John Glenn's house, the astronaut. We were partying at his house, I guess, with his kids and doing shit we shouldn't have been doing. And how fantastic was that? And it was on the same night that bugs, you know, like when sometimes they're like the bugs that'll come out in like every 17 years or something. There's certain kind of bugs. Well, in Cleveland, there's this other kind of bug that comes out every year, and like for one day, there's so many of them you can hardly even get through the air because they're everywhere. And that was the night that we were there, and there was all these bugs, and we were in this rich guy's house, and it was just like, we were young, we were beautiful. Jeez! You think I don't need you more than you need me? You think I don't need to be standing here right now in front of you, pouring my black heart out? I need it. And I can't wait till I can strut up on my Starlight Lounge stage, as an example. My joint. I don't own the Starlight Lounge, but it's my joint. See, when I get on the stage, it's my club. I remember me and Moondog were arguing for 6 months. We didn't speak to each other, and I was on that stage every goddamn Friday night. And when I walked in the room, it was my joint. And he knew it! We might talk about Moondog a little later. We might talk about the time he flossed himself in front of 15 or 16, maybe 17 strange men. Maybe I shouldn't have brought that up. Probably shouldn't have. How you doing? Ladies and gentlemen, I am seriously delighted to be with you. I got this microphone, but I don't need it. You know why? Because I got a bullhorn in my throat. I was the first child born at McGee Hospital with a bullhorn in his throat. The doctor's like, Jesus Christ, this little dago got a bullhorn in his throat. And I'm like, Let me turn this bitch up. Joints jumping, hips and hoes, but there's something missing to your show. It ain't a party till you get here. When you arrive, everybody get turned up. The joint come alive. make my blue disappear. It ain't a party till you get here. Lights are low, bands playing, dressed to kill, people swaying, but it ain't a party till you get here. When you arrive, everybody get turned up, the joint come alive. You make my blue disappear. It ain't a party till you get here. It ain't a party till you get here. What up? Come on, you hunter. Come on now. Spilling out into the parking lot. Inside the joint, it's too damn hot. It ain't a party till you get here. When you arrive, everybody get turned up, the joint come alive. You make my blue disappear. It ain't a party till you get here. I hope I made myself perfectly clear. It ain't a party till you get here. When you get here, when you get here. It ain't a party till you get here. In other words, I ain't doing this for me. I'm doing it for, you know who? You. You. Because I want to get with you. I want to get up under your skirt. And I want to diddle the fiddle. I'll make you feel good. I want to make you laugh. Forget about your problems. And that's what we're in that kind of business. We don't talk about politics. We don't talk about a lot of shit. We like to have fun. We like to talk loud and say nothing. It ain't a party till you get here. And if you're here, thanks for getting here. And if you got any friends that might seem lonely or they need a little steam blowed up, tell them about us. And if you don't like what I'm doing here today, call someone you hate and tell them to watch it. And let me torture them in your honor. You see, I'm a man for all seasons. And by the way, fall is my favorite season. But I don't like to call it fall. I like to call it autumn. Autumn. Squat and Gordon in the month of autumn. Oh, there is no month of autumn, is there? Uh-oh, I'm just starting to talk stupid. And if there's anybody of my Starlight friends tonight, they're partying at the Starlight with Ronnie Moondog Effer, lovely Diane, the bartender, Lori, and you guys are partying over there thinking about the manful handful and all those nights we've spent together when the lights were low. We had a couple of cocktails in our gizzards. Remember those nights? And I'd shout out, "How you doing?" And you'd all look at me and go, and that's when I knew we were together. Well, you guys, when you're over there tonight, I want you to make sure that when you check your liver light, when it starts blinking, you got to draw back. Order a ginger ale. You like ginger ale? Some people call it ginger ale. I call it ginger ale because my cousin Larry, his old lady was named Ginger, but he called her Ginger because my cousin Larry was about the coolest guy that ever pulled up a pair of pants. Can I get a goddamn hallelujah? One thing I want to do real quick before we go further. I got a buddy, a tall, handsome buddy, who looks like the cowboy actor Doug McClure. Do you guys remember Doug McClure? I think he was in the TV show The Big Valley. I'm not talking about some stripper's body parts either. It was a TV show called The Big Valley. And he was real handsome, tall. And I got a buddy that kind of looked like him. And this buddy of mine used to live in my closet. So in other words, when we all left New Jersey, he came out of my closet. And it's crazy. If I ever decided to go the other way, I couldn't come out of the closet. I'm too short. I'd have to come out the cupboard. But that's another story. Anyway, my friend, his name's James Dog Dealey. And he's from D.C., he's from Long Beach Island. He's at Asbury Park, compadre. Spent a lot of years there. Spent a lot of time doing shit he shouldn't have been doing in Florida. And I warned him about that when he left. I said, don't go down there. I told him. I yelled at him. I used to yell at him. And my buddy, he was one of the most greatest drunks that ever was. He was a fantastic guy. And he doesn't mind me saying this. In fact, I've tried to conceal this a few times. He says, say it out there. Let it go. He was so good looking, this guy. Tall, too. You know, when you're tall as a guy, all the options open up. It's like there's no no's. You know, a lot of times you kind of get with the girl and she says, no. And a real player, you know what he's thinking? Not tonight. He never hears no. The girl says no. He doesn't hear it. He hears, he smiles. He's just like, yeah, whatever, that's cool. But in his mind, you know what he's saying? Not tonight. Okay, no's fine. But you know what? One day, the walls will come tumbling down. But my friend Dealey had this crazy skill of getting drunk. And I'm not talking about lit. I'm talking about woofed up real good. And then he would get with some beautiful woman. And then he would piss the bed in the middle of the night. And the chick would wake up in the morning and go, what the hell? Because he'd be so liquored up. He'd piss the bed. How much do I love him? I can't tell you. But it's his birthday today. And we'll sing happy birthday. Will you guys sing it with me? Would you do that? Out in internet land. I've got a tuned down guitar here. It's tuned down a half step. So our voices will sound lower. That's a half step lower than a C. And now I'm looking at my friend James Dog Dealey, who was the leader of a band. He was the singer of a very cool band. James Dealey and the Valiants, and they were a Jersey Shore sensation. They would get all liquored up and get out on stage and start jumping around and strutting and making noise, playing out of tune. And in some circles, we call that rock and roll. The good kind. How do you like that talk? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to my friend James Dog Dealey from James Dog Dealey and the Valiants. Happy birthday to you. Tall, overgrown Mick. He got 3 good-looking sisters, my buddy Dealey. He was the only boy in the family. I bet his sisters spoiled him. I bet they sissified him a little bit. I guess that's what happened when the sisters run the house. And I imagine the sisters ran that house. 3 good-looking sisters? Come on, man. His vote was way down on the... Each sister got 2 votes, he got a half. That's how that shit worked. As it should be. Did you ever hear that song by Kev Mo? Put a Woman in Charge? You ever hear that song? He ain't talking stupid. If you want to hear talking stupid, listen to me. I don't think Kev Mo ever talks stupid. You know, my friend who I mentioned a moment ago, Ronnie Moon Borg Esser, introduced me to Kev Mo at one of the blues festivals, took me backstage to hang out with him. And I was very much honored. And then as time went on, I realized that Kev Mo became a personal compadre and associate of Taj Mahal. Understand what I'm saying when I say Taj Mahal? Taj Mahal. He was in our generation on the east side of Pittsburgh. I don't know what they were doing out in the South Hills. They were like listening to Styx and some fairy music. I don't know, some bullshit. We weren't doing that. We were listening to Taj Mahal with Jesse Edwin Davis on guitar. You understand what I'm talking about? Karina, Karina. Further on up the road. And not the one that Roy did. One that was so smooth. She caught the Katie. Kev Mo and Taj Mahal became compadres, and I think they have an act now called Taj Mo. And my old lady got me that album, and it's just full of delicious numbers. But if you're hanging with Taj Mahal and he's sharing a stage with you and sharing a song with you, you know what that means? You earned some bones, sons of bitches. He earned bones. Tall, thin, intelligent. Me, short, dumb, impotent. I don't know. Don't listen to me. You know, I said the other day, it says guys my age, when they masturbate, you know what comes out? Confetti. Because they're all dried up. Speaking of that, does anybody out there in the land of the intranet, I said intranet, how do you like how I'm doing that? I'm evolving. In the land of the intranet, remember, does anybody out there remember the first time they masturbated? Do you remember? Well, I have memories. And it was crazy for me, because for me, I was just cleaning that thing and it went off. I'm killing me! I got that from Stutzer. That ain't the only thing I got from Stutzer. I stole some shit from that hill jack. Let me be honest with you. I stole some shit from that hill jack. This is another one. I don't know who I stole this one from. I might have stole this one from Texas Tex. You guys know Texas Tex? Very cool musician. But Texas hit me to this line. He says, hey, I have an amazing sex life. I just wish I had someone to share it with. I'm killing you and me. Bodies all over the floor. I'm James Jones over here. Jim Jones, sorry. There's another thing I wanted to mention. I was thinking about talking about the first time the manful handful, the wop with the bop, the guinea with the skinny, the Guido in the Speedo, the Greaser who's a lady pleaser, the uncrowned king of Pittsburgh rock and roll, the high priest from the Church of Rock and Roll on the east side of Pittsfield, Pennsylvania. I want to tell you about the first time he made love. Beautiful, passionate love. I was 16 years old. You see the way I'm acting now? I'm 70. So can you imagine what an a-hole I was when I was 16? You getting the picture? And me and a couple other Italians, Italian Americans, we went to the Civic Arena and the Lower Hill District, and saw the Rollin' Effin' Stones with Brian Jones in the band. Okay? Remember Brian Jones? Pretty. Jesus Christ, he was pretty. My friend Robbie Johns was kind of pretty like he was back in the day. And who all the girls wanted to get with. You know what me? You know, I was on the sidelines doing this. So we go see the Stones. And you know what rock and roll will do for you? Sure you know. Or you wouldn't be watching this shit. You know it can fester up some of the enzymes and corpuscles that configure in your blood and in your lungs and in your haunches. And it gets all that shit stirred up and you start getting the hankering on thoughts about doing shit. About getting in there. We watched the Stones and we're driving home and I said to these other guys, I says, I said, take me to the Bricks. The Bricks was Brick Alley, which was the whorehouse down in McKeesport, where everybody knew it was there. And all the young people on the east side of Pittsburgh would go there and drive around and look at the whores. But none of the guys that were, put it this way, very few of the guys that were 16 years old had the rocks in their pants to go in. I wasn't that guy. I was the 16-year-old guy that just got done seeing the Stones. Okay. I'd already been gigging for a couple years. I was feeling my shit. Here's me. Feel that? Tight. So we drive to the Bricks, and the Bricks was like a square, and the houses all around it, and you would just drive around that square. You would just kind of like, always making a left turn, and just going around and around, and in every house, there was a couple girls in the front window with big blonde beehive wigs on, and big fat stinking titties, and they're like swinging them around in the window. I always think about going like this there. So we had been there probably 10 times before and drove around, and then what we do, we'd all go home, and guess what we do when we got there? Not this time. I'm going in. I left the other two grease balls in the car. All right, comes in. These girls were all bigger than me, a lot older than me. And they're thinking, look at this little monkey. And so one picks me up, grabs me, takes me upstairs. And what happened in that room between me and this beautiful whore lives to this day. Whorehouses across the country, throughout the world. Whorehouses in Thailand. All over the Middle East. Union of South Africa. All these whores, they confabulate. And they talk and they share experiences. What happened that one night in the summer of 1966, here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, here in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, lives on to this day. Because my performance was so memorable and so one of a kind that this whore had to shout it out to all the other whores for the rest of time. Because what happened in that room, they created a term for what it is that I accomplished that night. What I delivered, what I put on the table, what I gave that wonderful whore. You know what I gave her? A one pump dump. Now get the hell out of here. You understand what I'm talking about? A one pump dump. Here's me, Norman Nardini, in the corner. One pump dumping. Now get the hell out of here. And I want to brag about him. Hey girls, that's who I was. That ain't who I am anymore. You got to get that one pump dump out of the way. I got it out of the way pretty quick. When I say pretty quick, I mean one pump. That's pretty quick. But what a story, right? Are you kidding me? How fantastic is that? I wonder if kids, if kids today are doing the things that we were doing back when we were that young, back in the 60s. I don't think, like thumbing. We would thumb everywhere. You wanted to get somewhere, you thumbed. You wanted to get that out, you wanted to have sex, you got it out of the way. You put your $5 on the table and you give it what you had. You chased the monkey. And you lived, when we were kids, you didn't still live with your parents. As soon as you got out of high school, you were gone. And it wasn't like a weird thing. It wasn't like out of line. That's what kids did. I mean, it was a different world, I guess. It was we thought it was a safer world, obviously. But that's how we did things. We went out and lived our own lives and made our own lives and found who am I going to become? I can't become who I need to become sitting in my mom's house with my thumbs playing some goddamn video game. Goddamn video game. Goddamn don't matter. Video don't matter. Game matters. You're playing a game. How about playing life? How about going out and getting your heart broke? What with a girl that's 10 times hotter than you deserve? She throws you a bone and then kicks you to the effing curb. Learn that! And then you start becoming a little bit of changing from a boy, slowly evolving into somewhat of a man. By living, by making mistakes, by doing shit. And that's what life is about. Today I'm going to talk about 1981. And in 1980, we lived. We didn't play one gig here. We didn't play one gig there. We played all the time. When 1975 started for me, and I got into the flow, I tried to work as constantly as I could because that's what it was. That was the living. I know it's a different world and those opportunities aren't there, and rock music isn't the language of our society as it was at that time. But aren't there other ways to get out of your mommy's house and strap it on and strut and be somebody and make every goddamn mistake and do every stupid thing that you can do? Be that guy. Be the F up. Be the guy that F's everything up. I think of my friend James Steele and myself. We were those guys. We lived. We went out and did shit. Whether we did it, even if it was wrong, we did it. And that's how you knew it was wrong, because you did it. Someone didn't tell you it was wrong. You told you it was wrong because you did it. You had that notch on your effing belt, Hunter. Because I'll come right through that goddamn camera, Tom. I'm starting to think about that. Do you think I could get through there? Can I get through the camera?
Tight, but you could probably do it.
Because I'll come right through. Because I'll call right out through the intranet and start effing with people. Start chewing on their faces. And tell them, live, Hunter, live. I'm going to talk about, I think it's 1981. But before we do, let's play a song that we used to play in 1981. Used to use it to open up most of the shows. I think I wrote it in 78 or 79. I was still in the Diamonds. And it's one of the first songs I ever wrote. And I played it for Frank Zori, who was singing with the Diamonds at the time. And he was not impressed. He thought it was a bit of a... And you know what? He wasn't wrong. Because it's not the greatest song I ever wrote. Or even close. But it does... it's like being at the pool in the summer with all the girls wearing their little bathing suits and towels around them, and they take their towels off. And you're walking around in some... And if you're naked, like me, if I'm naked, I look... You know what I look like naked? If you take a chicken and pluck the feathers out of it, that's what I look like naked. So it wasn't much to look at. But it's like this song to me was like climbing up the ladder to the high dive and diving off into the deep water and not knowing how to dive, just doing it. Like I said before, because you needed to do shit. How about the bags under my eyes? I ain't slept for quite a much. I ain't been sleeping much lately. I'm gonna have to borrow Moondog's Preparation H, because he gets it and puts it under his eyes to make the bags get smaller. I'm starting to bag up. Although I'm not the bag man. I used to have a bag man that would carry the bag in the Tigers. He would carry the bag, the rolling papers, and the tray. And his job would be to be the Tiger joint roller. That's success. That's when you know you're somebody. when you got your own joint roller in-house. Somebody in the band says, hey, you want to burn one? Then you go like, just point to the joint roller. What are you asking me for? Talk to him. That's his job. Just look down right and it's out of sight, out of control, out of control. Are you ready, ready, Freddy, to go uptown and see your baby? She'll steady, Freddy. Now, brother, I don't mean maybe. Your girl's looking alright, it's out of sight, out of control. Then you slip into the back seat, give her a header, and move on down the road. When you pull into a side street, on the city, you gotta get it up, you gotta go, man, go, go! Are you ready, ready, Freddy? Go uptown and rock and roll. Are you ready? Ready, Freddy? Tell me, what are you waiting for? She got you look down right. It's a Saturday night. Out of control. Hey, your girl's looking alright. Alright. Out of control. Out of control. Out of control, out of control, hey. Ready, set, go, man, go. Ready, set, go, man, go. Ready, set, go, man, go. Ready, set, go, man, go! Go, man, go! Ready, ready! Yes. 1,000 times yes. How about the little guitar? Isn't that a little honey? Tuned to an E chord? Yeah, baby. You know,
They like that song out in Facebook land.
Ready, Freddy?
Yeah.
These are my people.
That's right.
That's we picked them up doing numbers like that. Burning up. Nothing to lose. Hot times. These were the songs. These were the songs that were the songs of our city. The voice of our city. These. See, when I get pissed off about being blackballed by the Evil Empire radio station, the reason I get pissed off about it is not just for me and what it could offer me. Not for the dollars it took out of my pocket, the fact they deny my existence. They deny the history of our town. They deny the history of what really happened here. I got the books. I did the gigs, and the people feel it, and when they call and ask for it on the radio, we don't play that. We don't have it. You don't have it? The intranet has it. Play this shit. Pittsburgh music. What? My underwear isn't clean enough to be in your little club of hunchers and munchers. Bring them all out. All your little minions. Let's get in the goddamn ring. See what you got in your pants. How you doing? I'm so effing glad to be here at East Side Sound. Another Friday night. I'm here with my friend Tom from Erie. I love Erie. Every time I think of Erie, I think about my friend Edie Blackware, who owned the Thunderbird Motel, where the shit went, where the party after the party went down. How you doing? We always stayed there. We played a Thanksgiving show in Erie back in the 80s. Probably run, maybe even in the 90s. And Edie would have little hotel rooms, but she would also have trailers that were like little house trailers. And she would rent them out. They had like 2 or 3 or 4 bedroom little trailers. And she would always rent us a trailer because that's where the party would be after the show. And it's Thanksgiving. And we get there and she says, you're in so-and-so, tells us our number of our trailer. And we're all burned out because we were probably playing somewhere else the night before and somewhere else the night after. We get into our goddamn trailer, open up the fridge, and there's a goddamn turkey dinner in there. All it needs is heat it up. Edie, how much did she love me and my muscle men, my boys, my rock and roll people? You know how much she loved us? A turkey, pumpkin pie. How about them orange potatoes? What the hell they call them? Sweet potatoes, cranberry sauce. Man, how about some cranberry sauce? You open it up in a can, it comes out and it's right in the shape of the can, looks like dog food. Love that. That's eating. I mean, it's probably not very classy, but to me, that's class. So glad to be butcher. Don't listen to me. I don't know what yuns were doing in 1981. I'll tell you what I was doing. Dragging my tight ass across the boards, every goddamn place I could. Putting on the shows, baby. Showing and throwing. You know what I mean? I didn't do 1 gig a month or 2 gigs a month, you know, and then you hold it back because you don't want to play. That's, people do that. And you know, their management and business philosophy says that's the way to do things and build it up and all, play these games. I wasn't playing games. I was playing rock and roll. And you know what else? Living the life. Because why? Because when you are rock and roll, you live the life. You don't play the games, you play the shows. And not just the good ones. You play them shitholes, baby. Them thankless, rotten, stinking gigs where people don't even want to acknowledge the stage. But you know what you do? You break them sons of bitches down. You trick them. You finesse them. You bullshit them. You drive them, you rock them, you pull every goddamn trick in the book. And that's how you learn that there is a book and there's tricks to be pulled. A lot of these guys, they don't even know there are tricks. You know, play your song on the radio and then you get out there and strum around a little bit in your little t-shirt and smile. You an effing break. That ain't rock and roll. I want my music to smell. You know what I mean? I want to smell the sweat and I want to see the stink on it. Because that's how I know the guy or woman that made it is a human being. Has life. Got something rolling around their shorts. January 1st, 1981. We drove home from Asbury Park. I think we played New Year's Eve at the Fast Lane. And we came home on that day, drove home from Asbury Park, and immediately drove to the Decade and played the Decade that night. January 3rd, Fat City, right here in Swissville, Waverly Street, with the Automatics, which featured my friend Guitar Slim, Gary Scalise. His mom just passed away. Rose Scalise. Bless her soul. amazing, beautiful lady, old school, from the greatest generation. And I believe that about the greatest generation. You know, I think Tom Brokaw wrote that book, The Greatest Generation. My parents' generation, these people that, they weren't like me. They weren't big mouth show-offs, you know, jumping around little monkeys. They were hardworking, respectful of one another, and they saw themselves as Americans. And they loved what we had in our country. And they joined together. They didn't argue with one another and degrade each other and think of each other as enemies of the country. They thought of each other as the greatest country in the world. I don't talk politics. I'll leave it at that. Okay. January 14th. On January 13th, I gathered up my tigers, stopped at Jerry's studio in New Brighton, bought a couple, 2 or 3 2-inch tapes that were the tapes that the Granati brothers cut their first album on, I believe. And once they cut the album, they just they sold the tapes, and I bought them, and we cut our first album on them. How about those tapes? Love that shit, right? We drove to Cleveland, and then January 14th, we played the WMMS Coffee Break concert in the morning, recorded it on 2-inch tape, and that recording became Eaten Alive. And if you want to know who thought of the name Eaten Alive, I'm proud to tell you. The name Eaten Alive was thought of by a blue-eyed, manly-chested Austrian named Paul Shook. That was his name. As soon as he said it, I was like, yes! And he was shocked that I like didn't question it. I was like, that's the name. Because I knew it came from a rock and roll person, right? And it was the right title. Eaten Alive. Norman Nardini and the Tigers. Not the prettiest band. Not the most in tune band. Not the perfect time band. But on the goddamn street, pound for pound, Ron for Ron, we was the baddest rockers around. You think I'm kidding you? Think again, MFer. January 15th, we played Peck's All-Star Stage on the South Side. January 16th, The Decade. The 17th, Hennessy's in Cleveland, sold out show. 18th, Mistake in Cleveland. 19th, Molly B's. Tom. Molly effing B's in where? Erie. Love Erie. Erie is, I'm trying to figure out how to say it. I want to say this right. It's a small city with a big town heart. It is like it's like a little big city, and it's a very cool place. And they always had some musicians that you turn around and look at and go, who's this son of a bitch? And what's he got in his shorts? All the way back, there was always cats up there that could blow. Always good bands, and always good nightlife. So one of my points that I would want to make there is, you see Cleveland on January 14th, Pittsburgh the 15th, Pittsburgh on the 16th, back in Cleveland on the 17th, 18th, Cleveland, 19th, Molly B's in Erie. So that's like a 5-day, 6-day stretch. Different cities every day. And the whole year, the whole time was like that. That's how we did. Other bands didn't do that. I'm not saying we were right for doing it or it was the smartest thing in the world. That's who we were, for whatever that means. To me, you know what it means? It means we were desperate to rock. We were desperate to get on the effing stage. Desperation, baby. You know what I'm saying? I love that word. January 22nd, flew to New York City, and I had a meeting with Buddha Records just to talk about the thing that we cut on January 14th. What's that, 8 days later? I'm in New York City talking to a guy who worked for this guy. Do you know what I'm saying? Tom, you know who this guy is?
Morris Levy
You hear what Tom said?
of Roulette Records and Buddha Records.
And Kama Sutra.
And, yeah.
This shirt was given to me by my crazy nutbag friend Johnny. Johnny! I hope you're at the start. I haven't I flew to New York. I didn't talk to Mo. I talked to, I believe it was Art Cass, who was running the label. He put Art Cass because Art Cass was a nice guy and a well-liked guy. And he put Art out front because by that point, most people knew that they didn't want to deal with Morris. So he hired this other guy to be the face. January 22nd, we played the Fast Lane. I'm sorry, January 23rd, which would be the day after New York, we played the Fast Lane. And at the end of the gig, I got a chance to hang out with Billy Rush, who was the star of Southside's band, guitar player, background singer. Billy Rush and Kevin Cavanaugh, who was the keyboard player of Southside's band. They were Jukes. And it was very cool because I started finding a commonality with those guys and their respect for rhythm and blues music and the rock and roll that they studied that put them where they were and doing what they were doing musically. And although I wasn't doing rhythm and blues music and was taking a totally different approach, for some reason there was a commonality between us all as working class musicians. And although I wasn't doing that kind of music, I'd been studying it since I was a little kid. I just hadn't figured out how to do it yet. I'm a late bloomer, doll. I am. The 24th, we played the Meadowbrook, which is another very cool club in New Jersey. And from what I remember that night, I think that was the night I met Eddie and David Brigatti from the Rascals. They came out to hang out backstage, and I think they just came because they saw the name Nardini, and they said, "Who's this greaseball? And why is he coming around here?" You know what I mean? The Dagos, they want to keep their eye on other Dagos because they figure I might be from one of the other 7 families. 5 families. That's what they say, right? One of the 5 families of the New York mob. And that was the night we were doing Undercover Lover. And I was bouncing around the audience being a nutbag. And the bouncer of the club saw me, and he didn't realize that I was the guy on stage that was doing the show. And he grabbed me up and tried to drag me out of the club because he thought I was just some guy that sprung up out of the audience wearing his underwear and an overcoat. Right? Do you love that? I did. But let me say something. You know what I have to say about that's how legends are made. You see what I'm saying? Well, no, we'll just stand here and strum and be nice people. You know, they know like a... No! Be somebody! Tom, Tom gave me these goddamn glasses that drive me nuts. Thanks, Tom. Because I forgot my own. On the 26th, we were back in Pittsburgh and at Asterisk Studios. That's a studio we used to hang at. And we did a session with the Automatics. It was a band I was putting together. And that featured Guitar Slim. And that day, Slim did overdubs. And Benny, Gary Garla Benny, who actually became Benny Gardell, lives in Austin, Texas, friend of ours, was playing bass. And we did recorded those 2 guys that day at the Asterisk Studio. And I think that was, it might have been one of the days when we came out of the studio about 6 o'clock in the morning. And I think Whitey was there hanging out with me. And we came out, and I forget how it happened. But we went into the parking lot, and we're getting ready to go home, and it's getting light out. And a cop comes, and I'm smoking a joint. It's just as I'm starting the truck up, and the cop goes, what are you doing? And I said something. I says, you know, we just worked all night. We're burned out. We're just gonna get to home. Everything's cool. And the cop was like, he's like, okay, that's cool. He says, go ahead home, guys. He didn't bust me. He knew. He knew we weren't the devil. We were music people. Whitey remembers the whole story better. You know what? I'll tell. That ain't the real story. Whitey, I'll have to refresh and talk to that white-skinned. His skin's so white he's almost green. You know what I mean? I don't hate him for it. On the 29th, we played the Decade. And I can't read what the hell it says there. It says something. I can't even see what it says. The February 1st, the Decade. February 3rd, a session at Jerry's mixing the Eating Alive record. The 13th of February, we played Case Western University in Cleveland. The 14th, we played Tommy's in Cleveland, sold out show. The 15th and the 16th, Youngstown, February 15th, Youngstown Agora, February 16th, Cleveland Agora, both shows opening for $20. How about that greaseball? Dominic Iracy, $20. He went Irish. He went Mick on me. But really, he's a 100%er. Dominic Iracy. Whopped out, right? Love that. February 20th, played Tracks in New York City, which was a very cool club. A lot of acts were doing their showcases at Tracks. February 28th, we had 2 gigs. Fat City in Swissville, one of our home bases. Great, amazing club. And then later that night at 4 o'clock in the morning, we went on at CMU for some weirdo party. Because CMU is always for weirdos, you know what I mean? It's like a really cool place. I bet it's still filled with weirdos, just a different kind of weirdos. I remember they're playing there in like must have been 64, 65. We played a Thank God It's Friday show there, and I was really green. I mean, I was as innocent as the new fallen snow. Truly was. And we went down there and played with my little band, and I seen all these guys with hairy chests, chicks, looked like they were thinking about men looking like they was thinking about women. And I was just this little boy watching it all go down. And it was Carnegie Tech at the time. And I never wanted that gig to end. I remember just being around these people that were a little bit more older than me. And they weren't like the people I went to school with. The people I went to school with were very white, very 1950s-ish. It was like, you know, Madras shirts and like kind of like Docker type pants. And all the boys were going to college. And all the girls were thinking about hooking with a boy that was going to college. Guys like me, I couldn't get a goddamn sniff. Hear what I said? I forget where the hell I was at. Oh, okay. March 16th, we went to, speaking of being desperate, March 6th and 7th, we were in Washington, D.C., playing in a club called Desperados, which was right in the party district there. There was another very cool club, like a blues club that was a couple stories. You know what that club was, Tom? It's a kind of famous club in D.C. at the time. And Desperados is right around the corner. But anyway.
Not the 930.
No, that was a punk club,
yeah.
Which we played, which was right behind the place where John Wilkes Booth jumped out of the goddamn window after he shot President Lincoln. Right in the alley behind this punk rock club. Are you kidding me? When I was there, I felt like I wanted to wave the American flag. I felt like I was so goddamn American. But anyway, I want to mention Desperados. I wasn't there. But we played those 2 nights there anyway. And it was kind of like a small, long, thin joint. And the stage was like at the front of the club, and it was up high. It was like, 6 feet off the ground. So I hate when they make that in clubs. So everybody, if they're going to look at you, have to go like this all night. Everybody walks home with a sore neck. You really got to be good to get people to look up for 2 hours or 4 hours staring at you. Because it just isn't natural. But anyway, that's the club that the story is told. Billy Price, I don't think they were the Keystone Rhythm Band at that point. I don't know what their name was. But Billy Price was getting a new guitar player. And they had picked a guy out to use to be their new guitar player. But he hadn't started the gig yet. Probably, I guess he needed a couple weeks for his other gig or whatever. But they had a guy hired to do the gig. In the meantime, Jimmy Thackeray, who was the original guitar player in the effing Nighthawks, right? Still gigging, by the way. And they've been doing my songs the past 10 years or so. But anyway, that's another story. But that night, but at that time, Jimmy Thackeray called Billy Price and said, hey, I heard you guys are getting a new guitar player. And Billy's like, no, we got somebody, dude. It wasn't like Jimmy was trying to get the gig, but he said, hey, I got this guy you really should take a look at. And Billy says, well, we got this guy hired. Jimmy says, no, dude. He says, I got a guy I think you should really take a look at. And so Billy was happening to be playing at Desperados. And he says, I'm going to send this guy down to sit in with you. And the guy was Glenn Pavone. And he was from Virginia. And so Billy Price and his band, who were very formidable and very big in the DC area, because Billy had played with Roy Buchanan, who was the guitar player of DC, and started that tradition of great DC guitar players. So Billy had positive rep and positive feeling, and everybody wanted to see him. So this guy shows up, and Billy said, they're like all going, this asshole's got to get up and play, we're going to let him sit in. And they said to him, well, what song would, the first thing he said was when he went up, the guitar player they were using at the time had a nice little amp and had a little pedal board. And he said Glenn went up and immediately plugged straight into the amp, didn't want none of them goddamn pedals. And I think somebody says, do you know one of those instrumentals by Albert Collins, Ice Pickin', or one of those standard like hot guitar shuffles? And so Glenn's, yeah, let's do that. And Billy said about 60 seconds into the playing of that song, it was an instrumental, he said he could just tell. He said this guy was just made to play the guitar. You could feel him, and it was so natural and so easy for him and so dynamic and he was an effing star. And Billy knew it. And so that guy who Billy had already hired and was waiting 2 weeks to start the gig, Billy had to call and say, hey, dude, you know what? I got to cut the cord because I just met Glenn effing Pavone, and he's going to work with us. And that happened at Desperado. So what a cool club, right? A little bit of real history. DC history, Pittsfield, Pennsylvania history, baby, because Glenn Pavone is Pittsburgh history. And if you don't know that, then you don't know. And if you don't know that, our radio stations are failing us if you don't know that. Because you should know that. And our radio stations, it would be their responsibility to make sure you knew that. When a radio station is a radio station and has a thing it does, and years go by, that radio station wants to stay linked to what it did the year before and the year before, and then the 15 and 20 and 30 years before. All those years go by, and that station managed well and managed musically, respectful to music, wants to maintain the integrity of the years that it operated. And that's why I say our stations, if you don't know that Glenn Pavone is high-level music history in Pittsburgh, it's because we're being failed by those folks, because they don't understand what it is. This is our culture, and if you're the music station, you should be the place where all that comes together, and that represents who we are, and then we build on that as a city and as music people. You MFers, because I'll come right out there. Cleveland. What the hell month am I on? March 22nd. Oh, okay. Oh no, I forgot one. Okay, March 19th, we played the Decade with the Haas Rockers. The Haas Rockers. That was the name of the band, the Haas Rockers. That's what the name of the band should have always been. It should never change from that. March 20th, we played the Stanley Theater, opening for the Grenadis, them little greaseballs, them jumping around little pricks, and Donny Irish, Dominic Iraci. How about an all Guinea show? Nardini, Grenadi, Iraci. How about that? Guinea up, Guinea up, Guinea up. Love that. And the best part about that night is March 20, 1981, as soon as we were done playing, we jumped in our truck and drove to Erie, Pennsylvania, to Molly F&B's, where Sammy was sitting there on his knees praying. Whenever we got in there a little bit. I was afraid you weren't going to come. I was afraid you were going to come. But that we played the Stanley Theater early in the day and then Molly B's that night. The next day we're in Cleveland at Tommy's. The day after that we're in Cleveland and did a M105 live concert on the radio. The next day after that, the 23rd, we played the Cleveland Agora opening for Crack the Sky. I was never a fan of them, but we opened the show for them. They were a little bit, can I use the word, scientific. I was never into the scientific bands. They seemed soulless to me. It was like an exercise in, let's do things that don't make sense and play things that force this music that isn't natural together and call it progressive. But to me, I would call it regressive because I like close to the bone, baby. I like to, what did I say before? I like to be able to smell my music. You feel that? You feel it? Here, give me a sniff. Let's play a song. We got songs. Songs, we got them. I haven't played this guitar today. You know where I got this guitar? Harry effing Bottoms. He'd give it to me. I mean, I'd not give it to me. Because for years he watched me go around gig after gig and not having an acoustic guitar. I didn't have one. And Harry, oh, I'm screwing up. My hand's not working. Okay. Watch an old man struggle. Hey, this song, I'm gonna screw it up. But it's still wet. It's still wet behind the ears. Did you ever hear that saying? I think that means when it's still wet behind the ears, that means from when you come out the womb. The womb broom. I've got one. We all have one. Wrote this song for my mom, Eleanor Nori D. We're coming up on 8 years she's been gone. I've written a couple songs for her, but I don't know that I've written the definitive song for her. And I wanted to. I wanted to while she was on her way out. I tried, and I tried, and I tried. And once she was gone, I tried, and I tried, and I tried. And then I'd back off, and then I'd try again. And then I'd move on, and this thing came, and 2 weeks ago, I read the words and mouthed a little bit of what I thought the melody should be, and probably in an embarrassing fashion. But what the hell, right? It's my effing show, Tom.
Only live once.
If I want to embarrass myself and put some uncooked meat on the table, well, that's my fault. I'm trying to see if this song can have legs and stick around, and what I really want to do with it is play it with one of my bands when I can get back to work as a leader of men, because that's what I am, a leader of men. I was a leader of men before I knew I was a leader of men. I'm not going to try to explain that. But I just say shit sometimes just to say it. Because why? I'm a ham. I sleep between 2 slices of bread. I'd like to send this number out to my mother, Eleanor Nori D. I was away, getting educated. We were talking on the phone. I could hear her in her voice saying, boy, when you coming home? Soon we'll be together again. I can hardly wait till then. Oh, these lonely days are rough. Feeling blue, missing you, 'cause soon ain't soon enough. Didn't make it on Christmas, working on the road, stuck in a hotel in Chicago, waiting out the snow. But soon we'll be together again, and I can hardly wait till then. Oh, these lonely days are rough. Feeling blue, missing you, and soon ain't soon enough. She raised me up right, life flew by in a blur. She was always there for me, and I was there for her. Sitting beside her, holding her hand, when a band of angels took her to the promised land. Now soon we'll be together again, and I can hardly wait till then. Oh, these lonely days are rough. Feeling blue, missing you, 'cause soon ain't soon. Soon ain't soon, soon ain't soon enough. Soon ain't soon enough. How you doing? Soon ain't soon enough, baby, right? My mother beat my ass. She used to throw shoes at me. You know, I picked something up from her. We got this goddamn cat at home. And when he gets in trouble every once in a while, my old lady got these little lady-like shoes that she wears to the pool. Every once in a while, I'll toss one at the cat. I'll pick it up and threaten, and he'll go like, "You son of a bitch." And I'll throw it and bounce off the wall, and he'll run. We have a very strange family. Soon ain't soon enough. That line hit me. And it kicked around in my little cranium for about a month, and I knew. I said, something about that. Soon ain't soon enough. And then it just come. I didn't want it to come. A lot of times these songs, you know, I don't want them to come. When they come, they just... I guess it's like when a woman's having a baby. She don't say, "I want my baby to come today. I'm going to push it out." Well, their songs are like that. You know, like you're just sitting there doing something else, and then it starts in your brain. Or like a lot of times for me, it starts, I'll be sleeping, and my brain starts fibrillating and compulating, and there it is. I wake up, and I'm in the middle of it, you know, and I just, depending on what, no, don't matter what time it is, I get up and I start writing, I start working. What's more important than delivering? Having a delivery. I'm just a deliverer. I'm not of importance. What's important is the package. And so whenever it comes, I put everything aside. That's what you do. Hey, Hope you guys are doing good. I have a couple things I wanted to mess with. I wanted to talk about. This is something I wanted to bring up. And it's funny. I've mentioned it on the show before, that the older I get, the more I realize what's happening to me. I'm becoming more and more of a minimalist. And I think I always was one, because I never really wanted to have shit, really. I never wanted to own stuff or acquire things, you know. I mean, but the older I get, the more I realize I don't want things. I feel better. The less I have, the better I feel. And it's not just having things. It's like you go to the music store nowadays and they'll try to sell you an amp and they'll tell you all the things that amp can do and all the options that it has. And I'm like, yeah, if you have an amp that has one knob and one input, that's the amp I'm interested in. I don't want an amp that can do all these different things. You know, oh, it samples this sound that sound like this, sound like that. What the hell do I want I want to be able to, I want one sound all the time. That's the sound of me playing an electric guitar through an amp. Minimalist. And that way, when I play, you know it's me. And I don't want pedals and all that shit. I want me and that amp to have a direct relationship. I don't want to wear a rubber when I'm making love to my guitar. I want us to be rubbing against one another. I'm going to see the smarts fly. Once again, what do I want to do? Smell the music. See what I'm saying? The minimalist way. When I'm working with bands, I don't want, one of my rules when I'm producing music, first rule I use all the time, I tell these kids, the way we do shit, once we establish one guy's pattern that he's going to play on that instrument, you don't, you know, once you have a rhythm guitar and you need to space that rhythm guitar, you don't have it chunking and pushing all the time. You chunk and you do riffs, and then you do open things where you just strike a chord. And those, through that way, you really, the functionality of what you're doing helps everything else. And the first bands where everybody plays the same thing at the same time, it's anti-musical. Happens all the time. More often than not, that's what guys are doing. But like when the rhythm guitar is playing exactly what the bass is playing, you know, and then another keyboards, all that shit, that's not musical. The musicality of it is each of those instruments, hey, you want that bass guitar popping when the bass drum's popping, but you don't want it just driving through and forcing everything through. You know, I hear a lot of these young guys, engineers. Let me bitch about them for a minute. Young engineers, when they're mixing a band, what's the first thing they do? I'll tell you. I'll ask you, then I'll tell you. What's the first thing they do? Now I'll tell you. The first thing they do is turn the bass up too loud. And you know why they do that? Because it affects the music more than anything else. And that way they feel that they're having an effect on the music as an engineer, as a sound man. But the music doesn't want that. The music doesn't want the bass. The first way to ruin the music and make it become cumbersome and to give people in the audience a little bellyache is to turn the effing bass up too loud. You hold that bass and you don't put too much bottom on the bass. You let it at players as well. You know, when a bass player's tastefully working with that bass drum and leaving holes and holding whole notes on occasions, once again, like that rhythm guitar, doing all those things, you can really plan all that out so extensively and so creatively that those three instruments are the orchestra. You dig that? When it's done well. And back in the day, there was a lot of folks doing shit like that. You know, when you listen to records by the Animals or the Zombies, those records were, and even a lot of like Dave Clark 5 shit, Beatles records, Stones records, those records where everybody was doing their own thing, but in respect to what everyone else was doing. And the musicality of that and those arrangements made the music dimensional. The 90s hit, and engineers and tech guys started taking over. Now the music, now it's just like this wall of sound, and people are writing chords that don't go together. The harmonic, there's dissonance, and they're sticking one chord after the other chord, and it sounds like every time they change chords, it's like a physical assault on your body and in your brain. I hated all that shit. It's supposed to be harmonically, see what I'm doing? Woven together and woven apart. And when all that, when you take great care with it all, and you have the right guys that understand what their jobs are in relation to what the guy they're playing with's job is, you know, then you start hearing the musicality, and the music is alive and it breathes. And then you turn that up. And that is what changed the world. You see what I'm saying? That's what, when rock and roll was the language of our country. And I understand it wasn't just the music, everything, society, the changes in society, the delivery system of music, all those things were working in the favor of something like this happening. But the acts that had the, you know, you listen to a Sly and the Family Stone record, you know, and I know they were a little bit crazy and had some problems with being live shows and all that shit. But when you listen to them records, the way they were put together, you listen to the records that Leon Russell produced, that Joe Cocker shit, you know, Billy Preston. When you listen to those records, the things that I'm talking about were unspoken. It didn't need to be talked about. It was how shit was done. And all that changed throughout the years. And, you know, the more control engineers and computers had over the scenario, the less what? The less musical. The less you could smell the music. Are you listening? Well, let's hope so. I like to play the keyboards. I suck. I have, you know what it's like? It's like some of my fingers have webs in between them and they're stuck together. I used to play when I was a kid, and then when I was like 21 years old, I stopped playing and didn't play for 40 years. Literally. I didn't touch a keyboard for 40 years because I never thought I could get good at it. It's always been a question of confidence. I never thought I could sing. I never thought I could play guitar. Never thought I could really play keyboards. Never imagined being a front man. And I didn't have the belief that I could pull that off because I saw people that it was easy for. I knew guys that singing great was easy. I knew guys that playing guitar great was easy. It was none of that shit, keyboards. None of that shit's ever been easy for me. I've struggled the whole time to be able to do those things. And slowly but surely, as time's gone on, I've been lucky enough to break down my lack of self-belief, which I think is a lot of us have. It's not just me that has it. I think it's in all of us. Men, women, I think a lot of us struggle with believing in ourselves, believing that there's greatness inside of us, believing that we're beautiful, believing that we're worthy. I am a living proof that we are worthy. Even me, who had no idea that I could ever accomplish shit. I always felt that I needed others to elevate, to be able to just to hang with when I was young, because I had no self-belief, and I've slowly broken a lot of that shit down. And the reason I say that is because there might be some mother hunter out there in the intranet that needs to hear it. Hunter, are you listening? You feel like you can't accomplish what you want to accomplish? You want to be like a big-time mechanic, but you don't have you can't get started, and you've been too busy on your goddamn video games to get dirty. Get dirty. Start going to work. The only way to overcome these feelings of inadequacy is to hunt your way through them. See what I'm saying? A lot of these bands, I used to see these bands, they say, what do you think of that band? I'd say they couldn't hunch their way out of a wet paper bag. People are like, what the hell does that mean? I said, it means they ain't got the juice. You can play their records. You can put nice pictures of them. Bring in some nice outfits and photographers. But they can't hunch their way out of a wet paper bag. I love that kind of talk. Look what you done, you broke my heart. Look what you done, you tore it apart. I hope you're having fun. Look what you done. Look what you done, you're messing with me. Look what you done, you won't let me be. I hope you're having fun. Look what you done. You come around here with your wild ideas about to drive poor me insane. You keep on talking out of your head. You're gonna put me in my grave. Look what you done, you made me cry. Look what you done, now I don't know why. I hope you're having fun. Look what you done. I hope you're having fun. Look what you done. Word up! You come around here with your wild ideas about to drive poor me insane. Keep on talking out of your head. You're gonna put me in my grave. Look what you done, you made me cry. Look what you done, now I don't know why. I hope you're having fun. Look what you done. I hope you're having fun. Look what you done. Look what you done. I'm working on that one. I'll play it better as we move along here. A couple weeks, a couple months, I'll start being able to bring that one to you. Wrote that in 1989, and Glenn Pavone and his Cyclones put that on their first record, and it became somewhat of an underground nightclub hit in our town of Pittsfield, Pennsylvania. And Tom Valentine, nice smooth singer, high level bass player, smooth like a mama. Sang lead on it, and Mr. Pavone, what'd he do? Lick it up, lick it up, lick it up. Look what you done. That was written as an inverted blues. You know, your regular 12-bar blues, I got 1 million of them, and I hope to have 1 million more. Love writing to forms like that. Here's 12-bar blues. Make something happen. In other words, if I was a painter, they'd say, here's red, here's blue, here's white. Make something happen. The form is already there. If you can place yourself and your concept and your musicality onto the same form that everybody else has used 1,000 times, well then you're saying something. And what that is kind of like, it's like this. If me and my old lady, I love saying my old lady. That's one word, by the way. My old lady. If me and my old lady go to a restaurant, they'll bring the menu up, and she'll look through the goddamn menu, and she'll start, she'll say what they have and read off what this particular dinner is and what that particular dinner is, and she'll fancy the thought of trying everything on the menu. And me, the whole time, I hear her speaking and I listen to what she was presenting, but I ain't reading the goddamn menu, because I know what I'm getting. You know what I'm getting? Spaghetti and meatballs. Because if they can't do that right, I don't want anything else on the goddamn menu. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's kind of like what writing to a blues form is like. How many songs did Muddy Waters? How many songs did Willie Dixon? How many songs does every blues act? And then not even blues act. Tracy Chapman, she has that blues type number. B.B. King songs that weren't written by B.B. King, but those forms and John Mayall songs. All them thousands of songs. If you put yourself in that arena and you can write a standout song to a standard format, I call it a floor mat. I'm being funny. Then you're getting in the water. Then you're swimming with the fishes. You're making something happen. A lot of these guys I see, a lot of these young guys, they put all these elaborate chord changes together that don't make sense, that aren't harmonically sound. They don't do like this. See, when you change chords, they got to go like this. And when you ain't doing that, you better have a goddamn reason for it. And you better know beyond what normal people think of musicality-wise, if you're going to make that happen and do something, or maybe if you'll stumble into something, which has happened. But I always like to say, I've always done gigs where cover bands play, and I've always played my own music, and people would always say, well, how in the hell do you pull that off? Let me tell you a couple rules. One of the first rules is, don't ever play anything musically that isn't musical, and don't ever play anything musically that doesn't sound like something they've heard before. Now, you might think on the simple sound of that statement that, well, that's not really, what does that mean? And what it means is, take the greats of music of the past 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, and see what they did. And what you do is you take these great pieces of music and you strip them naked, and you see what they got in their shorts. And then when you see that, you take those rules and concepts and that picture of that naked perfection, and then you know what you do? You get out your little sewing machine and your thread, and you make the perfect dress to cover up that naked body. And then once again, now you're in the jungle, because you're using the same rules and the same musicality that the greats use. And it sounds simple enough, right? It's simple, and it's a lifelong pursuit. The simplicity is what makes it a lifelong pursuit. Once again, minimalist. I open the closet, one spoon, one spoon, one fork, one butter knife, one shop knife, one plate, one teacup. That, and when you're living like that and thinking like that, you can apply that to the music, and so that the 5 words that you used said what someone else would take 100 words to say, but you said it in 5. because you figured out how to value the words and how to what do you want to accomplish with the first sentence of a song? Do you know what I mean? You know, don't even play me any music. I don't want to hear any music. Music has nothing to do with it at the beginning. What are you saying? All that matters is the words at that point. So if you can create scenarios and create characters with very few words, if you could tell us what happened, very few words, make it rhyme. Those things, that's the trick. That's the gig. It's so simple, and that's what makes it hard, baby. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, it's simple, but that's what makes it hard. Hunter, I brought a couple songs I wanted to play. What'd you think of my song Soon? Did you like it out there in internet land? Was it doing anything for you? Oh, I wanted to tell you. I got a call at the house the other day. At this stage of my life, my phone didn't ring a lot before the pandemic. But now it rings even less. Sometimes it don't ring for 3 days in a row. I love that. But I got a call the other day, and it was from somebody who I didn't know, and I didn't recognize the voice. And it was from the Old Lady Hall of Fame. Called my house. I said, how the hell do these people get my number? They got my number because they heard about my old lady and the duress that she's lived under for the past 45 years, living with me, being my old lady. And they called the house because they, on the reputation that she's earned, they want to induct her into the Old Lady Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? How fantastic is that? They said there's usually a 5-year waiting period, just like the Baseball Hall of Fame. And but they want to waive the 5 years because of the rest she's been under, dealing with this all these years. And I just think it's fantastic. I told her about it. You know what she said? What took him so long? Yeah. And that's what I want to know. What took him so long?
15 minutes.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Jesus
This is.
Time flies by when you're having fun. You know, when I was thinking about, I was talking about the Old Lady Hall of Fame. I was thinking about a little bit of they had that Hall of Fame here in Pittsburgh that didn't last, and now it's not even talked about. I don't know what happened there, but I probably, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I don't think it was being put together by rock and roll people. And but it wouldn't be the first time things like that happen. I think that's normal. But I was thinking about some folks that, if I was going to have a Pittsburgh Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, some names that I would put on it. And for no reason, not to make fun of theirs or jerk with them. They did what they did, and they're going to do what they're going to do if they're going to come back in their own way. And they are their own scene and their own people. And all I can say is, do what you do. But here's me, talking to the intranet, to the goddamn world, from these lips. Here's some names that would be in my Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The first name would be Porky effin' Chedwick, the Porkulator, the boss hoss with the hot sauce, the daddy over the radio, your platter pushing papa. Cool one. Porky created cool talking. There's guys I know that when they talk, they only talk like Porky talked. And Porky's been gone for, he's been gone for 5 years or so. But I mean, been off the air, and his heyday was in the 60s. And but the way he talked, yes, cool one. There's guys I know, as soon as they see you, cool one, my man. That's how they talk. They talk the way Porky talked. And he was this amazing DJ that turned all these fruit-laden white kids on the rhythm and blues music. The kind of music that, who was that little son of a bitch? He was working for, Mitch Miller. He was working for Columbia Records. He was a president, yes. And he had sing along with Mitch. Right, give me an F. And what he did, he was the guy that would get guys like Pat Boone. Let's kick that around your pretty little heads a second. Pat effing Boone. He would take Pat Boone and make him sing Tutti Frutti. He would take Pat Boone and make him sing a Jerry Lee Lewis number. You know, and he would want to flush Pat Boone down my toilet. And I wanted to hear Little Richard. I wanted to feel Jerry Lee Lewis, the anger, the insanity of that Southern maniac. You know, that turned me on. Little Richard, man. He was James Brown. These were the guys, and not just me, that's what we wanted to hear, and this proved out as time went on. But Porky was the guy that was giving us what we wanted and sensing it in his place as a DJ. At that time, the DJs were the guys. There was people that owned the station, and then there was DJs, and the DJs picked out what music they were going to play. What a great time it was to be a DJ, because you had a voice, and your job was like, and your identity was like, TL was like, he played like punk rock and music for young lovers, and he had his thing, and that was the TL sound. Porky had his thing, and these DJs had significance because of who they were and what they offered, and we would identify them and choose them on our little radio dial, on our AM radio dial, and that's who we want to spend time with. Long gone time in the world. But what are you going to do? I mean, that's how it works. But other names that would be on the list would be, for me, would be Jeff Bobula would be the first guy behind Porky. And Jeff was a guy he lived in Churchill, and he was killed in Vietnam at the age of 19. And he was in a band called the Igniters, which was far and away the best teenage band in the city. Really was, and they were from Penn Hills. And Jeff was the musical leader of the band. He played Hammond organ at an extremely high level. Played electric guitar, played tenor sax, sang a little bit, and he was like he was the music. He was an arranger and producer as a teenage boy. You know, he turned a solo on to Ray Charles and Jimmy Smith. You know, Jimmy McGriff, those organ players, those organ trio cats from the 60s that were just blue, baby. You know, you hear that shit and you just want to smoke a joint and you're 12. He also turned us on to cough medicine and shit like that. Amazing guy. Really one of the best musicians I've ever played with, and I've played with some great ones over the years. Maybe the best musician I ever played with, dead at the age of 19, died in Vietnam. Right? Penn Hills. Frank Zorri would be in my Hall of Fame. Bubs McKeag would be in my Hall of Fame. All three guys. Next, Bird Foster. Those four guys all played in the Igniters or variations of that band as time went on. Those four guys would all be in my Hall of Fame right off the top, because they were the music, and they brought the music to the kids, other kids their age, and they could mimic the great ones. You know, Frank Zorri, when he sang, there wasn't cats singing better than him. You know, you remember there was a group out of Philly that was very cool called the Soul Survivors. They had a record called Expressway to Your Heart. I mean, killer record to this day. And then they had two Italians lead singing. I think they might have been brothers. And then they had that one part of that song, I was wrong, took too long, got caught up in rush hour. And this guy had this beautiful baritone voice. I mean, like, those records, and the Igniters were capable of doing that and better. And like the Rascal records, the Young Rascals, to me, were one of the most underappreciated over the long-term bands in American history. You know, they were on Atlantic too, and I think what happened is they were crazy guys, and I think they upset the wrong people with Atlantic, and for some reason they were never given their proper due in the radio business and in the history of rock and roll, because they really changed music for white kids in America. They brought us to soul music because they were closer to it. They understood the Black Cats, and they could re-siphon what the Black Cats were doing and put this New Jersey Dago thing on it, man. Are you kidding me? And it was real, and it was big, and it was huge. I mean, they started off, they did, Mustang Sally, that Wilson Pickett number. And they did some cover stuff, Midnight Hour, Wilson Pickett. But then they grew into writing their own stuff. It's a Beautiful Morning. Are you kidding me? Grooving. These records to this day, they're textbook on soul music, baby. I'm coming over there. Warren King in my Hall of Fame. Glenn Pavone in my Hall of Fame. Here's a guy you don't know. Floyd Beck. Black cat from Homewood, Brushton. Played guitar and sang, and he had like a beautiful falsetto. You know who he sounded like? You know who that cat is now? Gary from Austin, Texas, Tom. Gary
Clark.
Gary Clark Jr. You know how he has that manful voice, and then he can whip out into this amazing falsetto. So he's like two different lead singers in the same guy, plus high-level guitar player. Floyd Beck had that. He had like a regular lead singing voice, and he wrote shit. It was similar to like a Marvin Gaye kind of thing. And not too many people ever heard of him. My buddy Joe Kelly was working with him, and Tom Causey was working with him. And he cut with some cats, some of the big cats out of Ohio, down in Cincinnati. But he never really got anywhere near the recognition that he could have, and the support that comes when the right arm is put around you. When the right guy, as a musician, when the right business associate puts his arm around and says, I'm going to school you, I'm going to prop your ass up, and I'm going to be there when you make mistakes and when you fall, and I'm going to help you get back up. Berry Gordy in Detroit, he was that guy, but he was also the guy that was making money. He was a whole lot of guy on a whole lot of levels. When you talk about a Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, man, maybe the most talented American music maker ever was Stevie Wonder. Marvin Gaye's in that club, these cats that were better than everybody else. Stevie Wonder really, well, a couple other people would be in my Pittsburgh Music Hall of Fame. Jerry Reed, the guy that owned Jerry's studio out in New Brighton. He was the engineer and co-owner with Donnie Garvin, who was the engineer, the fix-it engineer and build-it engineer. Jerry was the work with the artist engineer. Incredible cat, really fun to work with, and he worked with everybody. He did all the Granati shit, Donnie's album, Jagger's shit, the Diamonds. He engineered the rhythm tracks on Dirty Diamonds. I mean, he was just, and a bunch of other guys, Melvin and Mervyn, who were writing with the Jaggers, and who were also working with the Sound of Philadelphia. He worked with all those cats. And the Jaggers. The Jaggers were great. They were filled with lead singers that had voices. Billy Mabry, I think he was the first one to go. He was a soul singing gentleman. Donnie Ayers was a soul singer. Jimmy Ross, who still runs the band to this day, is singing his ass off. And always did, you know. Benny has been like a utility musician and a high blending falsetto. Paul Martello's playing with him now. Herman's playing with him now, running the music. Another person I want to mention, Pete Hewlett, would be in my Pittsburgh Music Hall of Fame. Great singer, high level, and people don't ever say it, but a really good guitar player. A really good guitar player. Tom says we got to get the hell out of here. I don't know what I want to do. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a real pleasure hanging out with you. Time flies by when you're having fun, and when I can't tell you how much I need to get with you and rub up again you. I love smelling you. And me, you know what they say about guys like me? Norman, he wasn't good when times was good. But if there's anybody out there that ever says to you he couldn't hunch his way out of a wet paper bag, let me tell you, little Samson, they're lying through their face. Me, hunchers, munchers, double duty. When I make love, I go in face first, smacking my own ass. Ain't that a boy? I can't stand myself no more. I can't stand myself no more. I like to even up the scope, pick myself up off the floor, play a couple innings more. But I can't stand myself no more. I were good when times were good. I were good when times were good. Ran all over the neighborhood, doing things I am not a should. I like to even up the scope, but I can't stand myself no more. I like to even up the scope, play a couple innings more. If I could get up off the floor, but I can't stand myself no more.